Welcome back to Overreaction Monday on this fine Tuesday evening where week 3 winners are suddenly Super Bowl favorites. The losers are apparently ready to blow it all up, and every fan base thinks that they've got it all figured out. From the Buffalo Bills putting the AFC East on notice, to Chicago with Caleb Williams carving up the Dallas Cowboys, to Daniel Jones somehow sneaking into MVP conversations and bringing back Indiana Jones references. We're ready to dive into every wild hot take from all 16 games. So buckle up because it's time to overreact. And let's start with our Buffalo Bills taking on the Miami Dolphins on Thursday Night Football. We're going to talk about each and every matchup in all 16 games of week 3. We'll start with the game recap of what happened in the game. We'll talk about the overreaction based off of what the media is saying and fans are saying about these teams, and we'll give you a reality check on whether we think it's true or exaggerated in these matchups. So let's buckle up and start week 3 Overreaction Monday with Thursday Night Football between the Miami Dolphins and Buffalo Bills. In this game, Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills handled Miami in Orchard Park. Buffalo's defense forced a key turnover in a critical situation where the Miami Dolphins were marching down the field and could very well have won this matchup. James Cook looked strong in this game, and Buffalo's offense had a balanced attack that was almost unstoppable in this game. The overreaction from this matchup is that the Miami Dolphins are finished, and this is Buffalo's division by a mile. And the reality check of this is that Buffalo clearly looks in control of the AFC East, but Miami's matchups throughout the rest of the season, based off of their strength of schedule, still is in favor of them getting back into this race. They still have a lot of firepower to bounce back. Injuries and inconsistency hurt them here in this matchup, and let's not necessarily overlook the rest of the season in their outlook of what they have left in this season. So I'm saying, in my opinion, that this is an overreaction for now, even though, yes, I am a Buffalo Bills fan. I do think that this is an overreaction because I think that this could get really interesting later on in the season if Buffalo has some losses to teams that they should beat. Let's turn it over to the NFC South and the biggest shutout of week 3 that happened between the Carolina Panthers and Atlanta Falcons. And let's recap this game. The recap is that Carolina's defense dominated in this matchup, shutting out Atlanta. Michael Penix Jr. threw multiple interceptions in this game, and Atlanta's offense never got going. The final score of this game, Carolina Panthers 30, Atlanta Falcons 0. The overreaction from this game is that the Falcons wasted their draft pick drafting Michael Penix Jr., who people are saying looks like a bust, and that they should start Kirk Cousins instead of him. In reality, I think that this is harsh but understandable. Penix Jr. looked lost at times out there on the field, but he is a second-year player. Benching him after 3 games kills the development that you have for him, and this game says more about what Carolina's defense showed out there on the field than Michael Penix Jr.'s long-term future. I think that Carolina came out with an excellent game plan and executed it to the finest tune to secure a win in week 3. Let's turn it over to the biggest surprise of week 3 in the Cleveland Browns defeating the Green Bay Packers 13-10 in a matchup that nobody expected. And this was the start of the run for the special teams units that struggled in week 3 of the season. And let's recap this matchup. It was an ugly game. Cleveland's defense held Green Bay to 1 touchdown in this matchup, and a late field goal based off of a blocked kick from the Green Bay Packers turned things around for Cleveland to go down the field and make their own game-winning kick to beat the Green Bay Packers and give them their first loss of the season. The overreaction from this game is that Green Bay is frauds and their offense is in shambles right now. In reality, I think that Green Bay's offense sputtered at times, but let's give credit to the Cleveland Browns and their defense. They are legit behind Myles Garrett. They have a lot of talent on this defense too, and Jordan Love definitely needs to clean things up for the Green Bay Packers based off of execution. But calling the offense a terrible offense and one that's not going to figure things out is really, really bad in statement. I think that this is an overreaction 100%, and that the Green Bay Packers have a lot of talent on the defensive side of the ball that's going to get the ball back to Jordan Love, and they're going to win a lot of games and go very far in the playoffs. Let's turn it over to an AFC South matchup between the Jacksonville Jaguars and Houston Texans, and the Jaguars defeated the Houston Texans 17-10. Let's recap this matchup. It was a low-scoring divisional grind. Trevor Lawrence hit key throws throughout the game, and Houston's offense stalled late in the game. The overreaction from this matchup, based off of the media, guys, remember that these are based off of the media, is that CJ Stroud can't win the tight games, and he's overrated in their opinion. And in reality, this is way too early for that. Houston's offensive line is banged up. CJ Stroud still made plays throughout the game, and this loss is more about the protection breakdowns from the Houston offensive line than his ability to make plays in this matchup. Let's turn it over to the battle of the backups in week 3 in Jake Browning versus Carson Wentz, the Minnesota Vikings versus the Cincinnati Bengals. And let's talk about one of the biggest wins for the Minnesota Vikings, winning by 38 points in week 3. And let's recap this matchup. It was complete domination from Minnesota. They embarrassed Cincinnati without Joe Burrow. And Jake Browning threw multiple interceptions in this game. The Vikings offense and defense rolled in this matchup. The overreaction from the media is that the Cincinnati Bengals are cooked without Joe Burrow. And in reality, without Joe Burrow, Cincinnati is severely limited based off of what they can do. But the rest of the roster for the Cincinnati Bengals is extremely talented. You have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins on the offensive side of the ball, and they have enough talent to keep them afloat until Joe Burrow returns. The margin here was more about a perfect storm of failures than a true collapse from the Cincinnati Bengals. I expect them to stay in games, and they could very well be a surprise team that makes the playoffs with the return of Joe Burrow that could be dangerous later in the season if things go their way. Let's turn it over to our division rival in the AFC East, the New England Patriots and the Pittsburgh Steelers, playing in Foxborough, Massachusetts the other day. And the Steelers defeated the Patriots 21-14. Let's recap this game. Aaron Rodgers had a magical game based off of the history of him. He passed Brett Favre for the 4th most touchdown passes in NFL history, and let's give him credit where credit is due. Congratulations to Aaron Rodgers. He managed the game very well, and Pittsburgh's defense made key plays in crunch time when it mattered most. The overreaction from this game is that Rodgers is back and he'll carry Pittsburgh to the playoffs, but in reality, Rodgers looks sharp, don't get me wrong, but he's still 41 years old, and he can't do it all alone. This defense of the Pittsburgh Steelers has to remain dominant for this to be a realistic reaction to a game. And I think that right now it's a par overreaction. I think that it could very well be that Pittsburgh bounces back and makes the playoffs. Mike Tomlin is one of the best head coaches in the NFL, gets his players motivated. But let's keep this at a neutral overreaction in terms of what the media is saying. Let's turn it over to what could very well be the NFC Conference Championship game later in the year between the Eagles and the Los Angeles Rams. This was a matchup that Philly actually stormed back in this game. They were down 2 scores and pulled out a road win. It was a game where Hurts and Brown connected late in the game to get them back into this matchup. The Rams were dominating in the first 3 quarters. Then you saw in the 4th quarter where the Eagles were ahead and the Rams were about ready to kick a field goal. As I mentioned, week 3 was special teams woos. This is where it kind of got interesting in what's called the wishing hour for the NFL Red Zone. And as I'm watching this, The Los Angeles Rams attempted a 61-yard kick, and it was blocked by Jordan Davis, who actually ran it back for a touchdown, making it 33-26, and actually making it so that the Philadelphia Eagles covered the spread in this game. It was disappointing for me because I actually had my pick of the Rams holding on to cover that game, and unfortunately losing it on the last second play like this hurts. The overreaction from this game is that the Eagles are comeback kings. Nobody can finish them off. In reality, Philly showed resiliency in this matchup, but digging deep holes in these games isn't sustainable for a team that's looking to get to the Super Bowl. They need to fix this early game woos and execution that they have. And if they want to make the Super Bowl, that's what they have to do. They can't let games slip away like this and try and fight back into games. Let's talk about another game where we saw special teams woos late in the game. And this is one where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the first 3 quarters, they were dominating this game. Then we saw our AFC East rival, the New York Jets, come back into the game. It was a back and forth matchup late in the game. Tampa Bay hit a late field goal to seal it, with the Buccaneers winning 29-27 in this game. And it kind of showed in this matchup where we saw a special teams play get blocked and ran back for a touchdown here too. We saw the Jets ahead actually in the fourth quarter. And then you saw Baker Mayfield march his team like he always does in the fourth quarter down the field, kick a field goal to win the game 29-27. But the overreaction from this game is that the Jets are cursed and they'll never win a close game again. In reality, this is a painful loss for the Jets. Yes, it is. But their defense and offense played complementatively in this matchup. One bounced the other way, and this is a Jets win. And it's a game that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have to find a way to win, and they cannot let the lead slip away like this. This is a team that's fighting to go deep into a playoff run. You should not be keeping the Jets in this game. But kudos to Aaron Glenn and his team to fighting through till the very end and putting their best effort forward each and every play and not showing that they're giving up whatsoever. This is going to be a tough team to beat in the New York Jets in the future. Mark my words. Let's turn it over to the second AFC South matchup. This one between the Indianapolis Colts and the Tennessee Titans. This matchup is one where we could very well see a MVP front runner come out of this game. And let's talk about Indiana Jones, as people are calling him. Indiana Jones went off in this matchup, throwing for multiple touchdowns in this game. And we saw the Colts offense was explosive, doing absolutely everything they could to get the ball rolling. It was a balanced attack between Jonathan Taylor and Daniel Jones in this game. The overreaction, I'm going to say it right now, that the media is talking about is that Daniel Jones is the MVP frontrunner. And let's have a reality check, guys, because he's been excellent throughout the first 3 games of the season, but MVP talk is way too soon for me. Sustaining this amount of luck, and not only luck, but talent for 17 games against a tougher competition is a real test for the Indianapolis Colts. It's a great start to their season, don't get me wrong, but I'd love to see Daniel Jones as the front runner in the MVP race, really showing the New York Giants why they shouldn't have let him go. But let's tone down the talk a little bit until we get to the midseason mark before we even consider an MVP front runner when you have guys like Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen out there on the field, even guys like Derrick Henry and players like that are out there that are playing some really good football right now. Let's turn it over to a matchup between a former quarterback that's starting as a backup for the Commanders going up against his former team in the Las Vegas Raiders. And let's talk about the Commanders without Daniels actually out there on the field. And the Washington offense looked balanced at times in this game, and the defense forced turnovers in this matchup. The Raiders were sloppy all day with a final score of 41-24 in favor of the Commanders winning this game. The overreaction is that the Commanders are a playoff lock and the Raiders are done. In reality, Washington has momentum, but faces a tough stretch ahead. The Raiders look bad, yes, but 3 games don't doesn't decide a season for the Las Vegas Raiders, especially when their division is open with the Kansas City Chiefs having 2 losses so far this season, the Denver Broncos having 2 losses too, and the Los Angeles Chargers currently leading this division. These teams in the AFC West are going to battle each other, and they're going to have some losses, don't get me wrong. But this is not an overreaction for me. I think that there's still a lot of time for Las Vegas to figure things out. Let's turn it over to another AFC West matchup, 2 teams that absolutely hate each other in the Los Angeles Chargers and Denver Broncos. And this game was a tight divisional matchup. LA hit a late field goal to win the game and secure the victory, remaining undefeated, where the Denver Broncos, their defense looked a little bit lost at times. And the overreaction from this matchup is that the Denver Broncos defense is officially washed. In reality, they struggled. Yes, they did. But they aren't hopeless. They need to do better in tackling. They need to do better in not blowing coverage. And they could quickly flip their fortunes, especially with Sean Payton leading the way as a quarterback. They have a lot of talent in Bo Nix, Cortland Sutton on their team, Pat Surtain as well. Don't count out the Denver Broncos just yet in the AFC side of things, and even in the AFC West. Let's turn it over to the former team that Sean Payton coached, and the Buffalo Bills' next opponent that they will face on Sunday at 1 o'clock in the New Orleans Saints, who played the Seattle Seahawks. And in this game, it was all Seattle from the get-go. Geno Smith and Seattle's offense exploded in this game. The defense shut down New Orleans completely. And the overreaction from this game is that Seattle is back. They're NFC contenders. And in reality, it's a great game. Don't get me wrong. But New Orleans is not a powerhouse. And Seattle needs to prove this against top-tier talent before we even consider them contenders in the NFC. They did a really good game. They had a really good matchup. Their defense looked good, and they played complementary football on all 3 sides of the ball. But let's tone down the talk on whether they are NFC contenders just yet. You still have the 49ers undefeated in that division too. Let's talk about the biggest ass-kicking, in my opinion, in week 3, which was the Chicago Bears defeating the Cowboys 31-14. And let's recap this game. Caleb Williams completely shredded Dallas's defeated defense. While the Cowboys looked disorganized without Micah Parsons, the overreaction from this game is that Caleb Williams is already elite and that the Cowboys dynasty window is dead. And I don't think they ever had a dynasty window, really, in my opinion. It's kind of the way that this came out, where they're saying that the timing of where they could make the playoffs and everything and have a really deep run in the playoffs with Dak and CD and George Pickens and players like that on offense is where they're saying it kind of like a dynasty window is for them. In reality, Caleb Williams looks sharp. He did. But calling him elite after 3 games with a team in Ben Johnson at the helm is a little hasty, in my opinion. As for the Cowboys, their defense needs help, but one player doesn't make or break a franchise, and they need to do a better job of getting points on the board and taking control on defense to get the ball back to Dak Prescott and the offense. Let's turn it over to an NFC West matchup between the 49ers and Cardinals, and this was a nail-biter coming down to the very last seconds of this game. Arizona nearly stole it, but San Fran held on late, and Mac Jones gets the victory here in this matchup. The 49ers winning 16-15 over the Cardinals. And the overreaction from this game is that the 49ers can't dominate anymore and they're slipping. In reality, this is a win's a win, don't get me wrong. But struggling versus Arizona raises questions. The injury bug has hit the 49ers quite hard, losing Brock Purdy, George Kittle, and Nick Bosa in the last few games. And the injuries and conservative play calling hurt them in this game, but they're still among the NFC's best, in my opinion. They have Christian McCaffrey in the backfield, and they will get healthy. Unfortunately, they will play without Nick Bosa throughout the rest of the year after losing him to an ACL injury, which really sucks. But this team is not done yet, and don't be surprised if they make moves with John Lynch as the GM to get back into the fold and make a deep run in the playoffs. in order to get to the Super Bowl. That's where their ultimate goal always is. Let's turn it over to the Sunday night football game between the Kansas City Chiefs and New York Giants. And at halftime, I was ready to turn this game off. Chiefs were up 9-6 on the Giants, and it was just the most boring game you could possibly have on Sunday night football. But in the second half, the Chiefs really showed their difference, and their offense looked shaky again, but they did enough to win this game. Their defense carried them in the second half, and they were able to get the ball back to Patrick Mahomes, who made plays in the second half in order to get a win. The overreaction from this game is that the Chiefs' dynasty is over and their offense can't score anymore. In reality, they're not lighting up the scoreboard, but Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid have earned the benefit of the doubt in order to get wins and get back into the playoffs. Expect them to figure it out by midseason, and they're going to be dominant in the AFC division if they make the playoffs. Let's turn it over to the Monday Night Football matchup between the Detroit Lions and Baltimore Ravens. And this matchup had nearly 70 points in this game. Let's recap it. The Detroit Lions put up nearly 40 points, proving that their offense is no fluke. Lamar Jackson kept it close, but the Lions outlasted them. The overreaction from this game is that the NFC favorites are the Detroit Lions, and they're Super Bowl bound. In reality, I think the Detroit is very strong. They're a good team, no doubt, but crowning them the favorites in the NFC over teams like Philly and even San Francisco, who has a really good defense behind Robert Saleh as the defensive coordinator, is premature. Still, this was a statement win, and it's great for the NFC side of things for the Detroit Lions, and it's great for the AFC for the Buffalo Bills, because the Baltimore Ravens have had a favorable schedule, and they could very well have been the number one seed, and it helps the Buffalo Bills that Baltimore has 2 losses already when they already have defeated them in week 1. Final themes from week 3. Let's talk about some of the things. And the quarterback narrative run was wild in week 3. Caleb Williams, Daniel Jones, Michael Penix Jr., everyone's jumping to conclusions on them too fast. The second theme is that the defense matters in week 3. The Buffalo Bills, Cleveland Browns, and Chicago Bears showed why their defenses still swing games. Close games fuel drama is the third theme of week 3. The Jets, 49ers, and Chargers all saw nail biters that could have flipped narratives completely in week 3. The overreactions will stick because of emotions. Fans live week to week. The best teams balance big wins with consistency in the NFL. Week 3 gave us blowouts, heartbreaks, and a whole lot of hot takes. Some of these overreactions might age like fine wine. Others might spoil like milk. But that's what makes the NFL the best soap opera on TV. One week you're a contender. The next week you're getting roasted on Overreaction Monday. Buckle up, Bills Mafia and football fans around the world, because it's the first 3 weeks have taught us anything. It's that the season is going to be absolutely unpredictable. And we'll be right there every Monday to overreact right along with you guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment on these videos. And you can also find us on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, as well as our website, GoBillsPodcast.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Overreaction Monday. Stay loud, stay proud. And as always, we say, Go Bills.